Greetings, I'm Zachary Hepner. I'm pleased to share this Dvar Torah with you for Parashat Chayei, Sara. King Lear says in Act 2, Scene 4, "Ask her forgiveness? Do you but mark how this becomes the house? Dear daughter, I confess that I am old. Age is unnecessary. On my knees I beg that you will vouchsafe me raiment, bed, and food." End quote. I find it curious that the original text, in parentheses, instructs Lear to kneel, representing Lear in a position of inferiority. In Henry IV, Prince Hal describes kneeling as exterior bending when he entreats his father, King Henry. Quote, "Which my most inward true and duteous spirit teacheth, this prostrate and exterior bending." End quote. Bruce Young cites Thomas Stapleton, who wrote in 1588, quote, "It is customary among us for children daily, morning and evening, on bended knee, to ask a blessing of each parent." Nicolas Ferrar, in the early 1600s, wrote, "At first approaching his mother, he knelt upon the ground to ask and receive her blessing." For Shakespeare, a person's last words are presented as having special wisdom or prophetic power. As Alice Thornton writes in 1659, describing a deathbed blessing, quote, "She embraced us, pouring out many blessings and prayers for us, like good old Jacob when he gave his last blessing to his children." End quote. As parental blessings became less common with the rise of Calvinism, kneeling had become less frequent and sometimes sacrilegious. Young writes, "Kneeling suggests humility, respect, and independence. A child's kneeling was in part a recognition of the parent's superiority and maturity. The ritual thus symbolized and affirmed the intimate connection between parent and child." I feel that a closer reading of Chayei Sara makes the symbolism of kneeling much more than a pro forma token of respect and connection. Of the many key words in Parashat Chayei Sara, beirach, or to bless, is one of them. Genesis 24 is the narrative about Abraham's servant who seeks an appropriate match for his master's son, Isaac. V'Hashem beirach et Avraham bakol, vayavrech hagmalim, vayomer baruch Hashem Elokei Adoni Avraham, v'Hashem beirach et Adoni, va'ikod v'ashtachav Hashem va'avarech, vayevarechu et Rivka vayomru la. God had a blessing with everything. The servant declared, "Blessings be God. God had blessed my master. I bowed down to God and blessed the God." Lavan and his mother give Rivka a blessing. Intratextually, the theme of blessing, or beirach, is that Avraham is blessed, and don't forget it. Ironically, the most memorable time that the word blessed is mentioned in this narrative is not in the text at all, but by recalling Rashi, who cites Chazal, that Rebekah restored the homebound blessings that were lost when Sara had died. Blessings also link this narrative to Ruth, who, as Rabbi Silber had told me in personal communication, quote, I paraphrase, "Ruth left her home and cared for Naomi. Blessings are a central motif of the Ruth story. The story is filled with blessings and brings blessing. Ruth descends from Lot, who is a foil of Abraham, but Ruth is in many ways the opposite of Lot, and that relates her to Abraham." My Avi Mari, father, makes many connections between Abraham's shidduch crisis and Ruth in his book, Legal Friction. Quote, "Lot is cursed. Abraham's decision to ask Lot to separate from him reflects the fact that Lot's name means cursed in Aramaic. The land that God promises Abraham can only be given to him because he is a bracha, a blessing. And so long as Lot remains with him, the blessing cannot take place. However, the primary rationale of the mandatory separation of Abraham and Lot is the Deuteronomic law in Deuteronomy 23, in contrast with a non-mandatory separation from Edomites and Egyptians, which leads to the non-mandatory separation of Jacob and Esau." End quote. But back to the key word bless, there is one use of this word that has always baffled me. Vayavre chagemalim. The servant did not bless the camels, he made them kneel down. Abraham's servant parked at the camel parking lot, water fountain, and he made them kneel down. The root of the word is intentionally inserted. It could have been omitted without making any difference in the story, yet it seems to have nothing to do with blessings. Take a look at Isaiah 45. Lo tohu v'ra lashevet yitzara, ki li tichra kol berech tishava kol lashon, for myself have I sworn, from my mouth has issued truth, a word that shall not turn back. To me every knee shall bend, every tongue swear loyally. Yeshayahu is saying that the Almighty didn't create the world to be desolate, but for it to be populated. And there will be a time in the future that every knee will bend and every tongue will swear to God. Isaiah is alluding to an oath of loyalty. On the topic of loyalty, that is precisely what chesed, another key word in this narrative, means, loyalty. As Rabbi Yitzchak Etzshalom has beautifully translated, Zacharti lach chesed ne'uraich, I remember the loyalty of your youth. Rebecca is about to embark on a lifelong journey, just like Naomi, and switch her loyalties. Abraham was loyal to the Shemites, the children of Shem. This precludes the Canaanites who were not from that tribe. Lavan's hesitation to marry off Rebecca was that he did not see matters that way. As far as Lavan and Rebecca's mother were concerned, Rebecca was changing tribes. With a change of loyalty, they blessed her with the ultimate blessing. Vayivarachu et Rivka vayomru la. Achotenu at ha'ila alfei v'rvava v'yirash sarech et sar sonav. Become very large tribe. Defeat your enemies. This blessing echoes Moses' declaration in the wilderness in Numbers 10. Rivavot alfei Yisrael echoes le'alfei rivava. Vayanusu mesanecha echoes sha'ar sonav. Now we can understand the notion of kneeling in the late Middle England and the including of the kneeling of the camels in Genesis 24. Kneeling is part and parcel of a blessing. How does one receive a blessing? By putting the Great One who bestows blessings higher than the receiver and declaring loyalty to him. And how appropriate that camels are gemalim or gamal, which also means to become independent, as the child grew up and was weaned, vayigamal. Similarly, the tree bore almonds, vayigmol shekedim. The camels kneeling foreshadowed Rebekah's early independence from the house of Bethuel. While Bruce Young suggests children's kneeling to their parents as a semantic act, I suggest it's a Semitic act, with origins going back as far as the Bible. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.